think I just need a clicker. Is that the clicker there? Good evening. My name is Gary McKibble. I've not had the pleasure of speaking before this council before, so I really am excited to be here and presenting on behalf of the Mesa Refinery Watch Group. Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council, for allowing the Phillips 66 Rail Terminal project to go forward as a formal agenda item tonight. My presentation is broken down into 3 parts. Opening remarks, followed by a PowerPoint presentation, followed by a concluding statement. Let me begin by telling you a little bit about the composition of the Mesa Refinery Watch Group. We are engineers, scientists, business people, real estate managers, healthcare professionals, and retired executives from both the oil and railroad business. We've been researching this project in great detail for more than a year and a half. Each of us has a specific area of subject matter expertise, and we really welcome this opportunity to share what we have learned about the project with you. Here are some of the things we've learned. Number 1, crude oil feedstocks are not diminishing. In fact, Central Coast crude oil production has been remarkably stable for the past decade. 2, using local crude supplies, the refinery's output has steadily increased over the past 5 years. 3, 2013 was among the highest production years ever. 4, we've learned about Phillips's crude by rail strategy. It's all about maximizing profits at the expense of public health and safety. And finally, we've learned that it is the local Santa Maria refinery folks, not corporate Phillips 66 down in Houston, Texas, that seem to claim that jobs will be lost and the refinery might be forced to close if this project is denied. The locals use code words like viable, as in, we need the project to remain viable. It's a scary word, and it's been in all of their presentations. But what does corporate Phillips 66 say? Dennis Nuss, company spokesman in Houston, said this, and I'll quote, "There has been no discussion about the refinery closing should the project not be approved," end quote. At this time, I want to give this council a sense of the magnitude of the opposition to this project. This is not some NIMBY issue, although our group began to push back because we live on the Nipomo Mesa, right across from the refinery. The Mesa Refinery Watch Group has been instrumental in publicizing the downside of this project, and as a result, many cities and counties, both to the north and south of Pismo Beach, have sent in strong letters of opposition to the Planning Commission. These governmental entities represent millions of individuals, and this number is growing daily as information about the risks of this project to public health and safety become better known. Our goal tonight is to give this council all the information it needs to say no to this project and join the cities of Berkeley, Carpentier, Davis, Fremont, Goleta, Mar Vista, Moore Park, Oakland, Oxnard, Richmond, San Jose, San Leandro, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz, Simi Valley, Oakland, and Ventura, and the counties of Alameda, Monterey, Santa Cruz, Ventura, and Santa Clara, whose Board of Supervisors just last Tuesday voted 5-0 against the project, and Santa Barbara County, which is debating this issue right now, even as I speak here tonight. Many organizations also oppose this project. Organizations as diverse as the California Nurses Association and the League of Women Voters of San Luis Obispo County have taken a stand. The CNA has said no, and the League has said, quote, "The League cannot turn a blind eye to such concerns, nor can we ignore rail accidents, property damage, and death," end quote. And organizations as local as the UCMR Unified Teachers Association and as national as the National Education Association have said no. In fact, the NEA submitted a letter of opposition to the Planning Commission stating in part, quote, "Please put student safety first. On behalf of NEA's 3 million members and the students they serve, I implore you to reject the proposed expansion of the rail spur to the Santa Maria Refinery," end quote. All right, let's look at the project by the numbers. Every week, 5 mile-one long trains will be coming up and down the main line. 80 crude oil tanker cars per train with 3 diesel locomotives. Each train carrying between 26,000 and 28,000 barrels of volatile tar sands. That's almost 28,000 tanker cars a year. 520 trains coming and going each year through our community. That's 500 million with a B barrels a year, every year. So it's not a benign spur. It's 5 active tracks and associated infrastructure. It's a crude oil rail transfer facility that will be with us forever. More trains mean more significant and unavoidable risk to air quality. The U.S. National Institute of Health states, quote, effects of diesel exhaust exposure include lung function changes, respiratory changes, and a number of profound inflammatory changes in the airways. The EPA adds, inhalation exposure is likely to pose lung cancer in humans. End quote. Microparticles of diesel emissions include soot and aerosols such as ash, metallic abrasion particles, sulfates, and silicates that may easily penetrate deep into the lungs, increasing the risk of asthma diagnoses. Our group, the Mesa Refinery Watch Group, was instrumental in getting the notorious Bakken oil out of the DEIR, the Draft Environmental Impact Report. Now the issue is Canadian tar sands, equally explosive as Bakken, but also the dirtiest, most toxic, and polluting crude oil. It's not the same crude oil that P66 refines now. Tar sands, just as dangerous as Bakken and dirtier. Tar sands, called bitumen, is a highly viscous substance. It is thick and sticky and has the consistency of asphalt. It's extracted from Alberta oil sands. To make it flow, a diluent needs to be added. This makes it volatile due to lowering its flash point. And look at that quote from the trade industry magazine Railway Age. It says, quote, the widespread belief that bitumen tar sands from Alberta's northern oil sands is far safer to transport by rail than Bakken crude is, for all intents and purposes, dead wrong. But aren't the new tanker cars at P66 purchased safe? Recent derailments have proved that the new CPC 1232 tanker cars purchased by Phillips are no safer than the older DOT 111 tanker cars. Just Google horrific derailments at Lynchburg, Virginia, Mount Carbon, West Virginia, and Gogama, Ontario. Cynthia Quarterman, a former director of the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, said the recent incidents, quote, confirm that the CPC 1232 just doesn't cut it. Basically, Phillips bought these new tanker cars and they have proved to be unsafe. Why should we have to assume the risk of a bad business decision? I hope you've heard of the blast zone before. 37% of Pismo Beach is in the blast zone. At a town council meeting in Guadalupe, the chief of public safety stated the consequences of an explosion. The shock wave would be felt 1.5 miles away. Rail cars could be launched like projectiles into the air. A debris field of shrapnel will spread 3,000 feet. That's 30 football fields. An evacuation zone of over 1 mile would be ordered, and a black cloud of toxic soot and ash would cover homes, businesses, and farmland. Pismo Beach is not prepared. First responders are underfunded, undertrained, under-equipped, and underprepared for an oil train disaster. The nearest certified hazmat response team is in central Santa Barbara. When asked how such fires would be fought, the standard answer is, let it burn itself out. Consider the impacts. What would be the environmental impacts to communities along the main line of the Union Pacific Railroad? What would be the financial impact on Pismo Beach if there were such an event? Who would pay? Has this council budgeted for such an event? How many tourism jobs would be lost? What about the financial impact for lost business? You know, the Refugio oil spill is approaching $230 million in cleanup costs as we speak now. What would be the impact on attracting new business to this community? What would be the loss to the value of the Pismo Beach brand? The Pismo Beach brand, why put it all at risk? Yes, we are playing oil roulette. The Department of Transportation predicts 10 high-consequence derailments every year for the next 2 decades, with lives lost and damages in the billions. And don't think it couldn't happen here on the Central Coast. Do you think the people in Lac-Mégantic, Canada, where 47 people died, thought it couldn't happen there? There's some of the 2013 major crude oil train derailments. And take a look at that picture if you can see it. I hope you can. 2014 derailments. '15 derailments. Note the first one was in California. And the derailments continue. This is in April this year. Not a pretty picture. Even more derailments. According to statistics collected by the Federal Railroad Administration, there were 157 nationwide Union Pacific derailments in 2014. And there have been 166 so far in 2015. But wait, there's more. July, a couple months ago. And look at the aging infrastructure on the top photo. And look at the Arroyo Grande River Bridge there, an accident waiting to happen. So now is the time to say no. And why is it the time to say no? Why should you send a letter of opposition to the Planning Commission right now? What is the urgency? Why can't this matter be brought up for debate after the final environmental impact report is released? I'll give you 3 reasons. Reason number 1. This is possibly the most important health and safety issue to ever come before this council. We really don't know how much research about this project this council has already done. You may or may not be aware that there are 11 Class 1 environmental impacts, 5 of which are impacts related to air quality greenhouse gases. These impacts are significant, and these impacts are unavoidable. Make no mistake, if this project is approved, there will be a significant deterioration of air quality due to pollutant and toxic emissions. It says that right in the EIR. Not to be overly dramatic, but this is a death by 1,000 cuts. And of course, there will always and forever be the potential for the big one, because there will be an increased risk of catastrophic train derailments, explosions, and oil spills, any of which could wreak havoc on Pismo's tourist-based economy. Why should the public take on all the risk and Phillips get all the reward? Pismo Beach should not have to become collateral damage to satisfy corporate greed. Reason number 2. Many folks in this community believe that the council's silence on this project has been deafening. The optics of silence, to use a mixed metaphor, is being interpreted by many citizens as a lack of interest, a lack of political courage, and even tacit support of Phillips. If none of this is your intention, then tonight is when you must take a stand. Reason number 3. Protection of the anti-SLAPP law. That's the Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation law. Understand that the final environmental impact report cannot be materially different from the revised draft EIR. You are not the first governmental unit to be concerned about weighing in on this project before the final EIR is released. So let me share with you the opinion given by the Santa Barbara City Attorney to his own city council at their council meeting on July 28th. He said, the anti-SLAPP law, quote, gives great protection to public agencies that use their First Amendment rights to express themselves. So I don't think there's much chance of being sued, end quote. I retired after practicing law for 33 years in New Hampshire, and of course cannot advise this council on the application of the California anti-SLAPP law. But I'll bet you dollars to donuts that your city attorney would agree with the Santa Barbara City Attorney and would find no legal objection to weighing in on this project at this time. To us, denying this project is a no-brainer. We look forward to reading your letter of opposition to this project. Thank you.
And I appreciate you staying within the time.